What's going on, everyone? Throwing a little bonus episode for you right now. Tuck and Pat are working overtime because of all the money we make doing this. So pretty much, straight up, the state of the Seahawks. I'm hoping the 12th man, who, by the way, you're not a real Seahawks fan if you can't tell me who the quarterback was before Russell Wilson. If you can name one quarterback for me, Tucker, in between Russell Wilson and Matt Hasselbeck.
Oh, come on.
We talked about this off air, so do you listen to me?
We actually didn't talk about this off air at all, but I was going to say Hasselbeck, obviously, but I'm going to go somewhere along the lines of Tavares Jackson. How's that sound?
Yes, he's one of them. Let's throw some other name droppers in there. Charlie Whitehurst.
Naturally.
What's his name? Clipboard Jesus. And
yes.
Matt
the
Flynn.
Indianapolis Colts legend.
Yeah, he played for the Browns last year. He played in 16. This year he was like, I'm just gonna hang out with Jewel and be beautiful, because he is a beautiful man.
He's got the flow. It's really all.
Oh God! And the funny thing is you see his ponytail, just rocking his ponytail outside of his helmet. Just doesn't care. Long hair, don't care.
Like a Navajo. But moving right along to the state of the Seahawks, I believe the reason why we were so inclined to go ahead and do this today was that right before we recorded our episode, our full length episode, the storyline came across that Michael Bennet had been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for little more than peanuts. Now let me break it down. Michael Bennet was traded to the Eagles for a player named, actually I'm not sure if this is his name, but I think it's Marcus Johnson, a receiver. Yeah. So hopefully that name was correct. And then, but the real value of the trade on both ends, Michael Bennet, still has a chance to be a player in this league. If he can kind of get some things together and kind of get that motor going, 100% of the time. But really, to me, it's one of those stereotypical swaps, right? So Philly had to send over a 5th round pick, and Seattle sent over a 7th round pick. So really, they got rid of Michael Bennet and moved up 2 rounds, which is very similar to the what was that? The Thomas Jones trade, things of that nature, where it's really kind of like some team is trying to get a player off their books, and another team is looking for a deal. Where Philadelphia, they didn't lose anything in this deal, really. I mean, moving back, obviously 7th round pick is not great capital, but a 5th round pick is hit or miss anyway. And Michael Bennett's an established name in this league, so I think both sides got what they wanted, and it was a very economical deal for both sides. Pat, what's your take?
According to Bleacher Report, being that not only did they trade Michael Bennet, they got rid of Richard Sherman. So the Seahawks are no longer the NFL's woke franchise. So I don't really know what that is.
According to Bleacher Report.
Yes, according
to
that
is the headline, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, according to The Onion for sports, I mean. Well, excuse me. Trigger. I'm on a roll, guys. I'm pretty anti Bleacher Report. So. Well,
the problem is with you and me, Pat, is we've been around. I mean, it's not like we've been around for so long that we know everything, but we were there. We were, at least in high school or whatever, like we were reading Bleacher Report back when Bleacher Report didn't have staff writers, back when Bleacher Report was nothing but, and this is completely off topic, but originally Bleacher Report was just people like us, bloggers, trying to produce professional content and up to date stories. But it's gotten to the point where, as a Mets fan, they predicted Jerry Familia's 40th save while he was still on the mound, and it came across as a thing on my phone, and I was just really upset because I was actually at that game. But let's stick to the Seahawks because I tend to get off topic.
Fact.
But so if Kam Chancellor is really no longer with the team, obviously that was a health-related move.
No, Kam Chancellor, they still want.
So Richard Sherman's no longer with the team. Richard Sherman. Okay.
Well, he was getting old too. Like he's hands down smart guy, understands football. I'm always going to be biased against players who only play half the field. That's the big thing with people. Like, oh, he's only on X. He doesn't go to the other side. I think if you're going to be number one, you have to trail the number one receiver.
Right.
But he still can play. He's not bad at all.
He'll get picked up for sure.
Yeah, like maybe I'd like to see him go down to the Dolphins. I could see him going to the Raiders, going back to California. This isn't going to happen. I'm plugging the Rams. Maybe the Rams. It'd be cool to see him and Marcus Peters. I know the Rams are losing Tremaine Johnson, but regardless of everything going on with the other teams, the Legion of Boom does not exist anymore because Kam Chancellor has a neck injury, and no one's sure if he's going to play this year. And even if he does, he's not going to be there opening day. And Cliff Averill has been out since week 4. He's got a neck injury. So these guys are like not going to get released, but they're not guaranteed week 1 starters.
Right. I mean, Kam Chancellor especially, and the whole reason. I mean, they're the Legion of Boom, right? It means they're physical, right? So if Kam Chancellor can't be confident in making that tackle, like it's not like Peyton Manning in his neck surgery where Peyton Manning was receiving the blows, didn't have to ever dip his shoulder to make a blow. Where we're going with this one, I think, is that with this kind of a neck injury for a defensive player, the timetable is uncertain, and the player that you're going to get back on the field is uncertain. So I think all this in conjunction with another headline, just specifically regarding the Legion of Boom, a guy that I referenced on a previous episode as somebody that I view as a prototype, very much in the Brian Dawkins type mold, a guy named Earl Thomas III out of DBU, aka the University of Texas at Austin. Hook 'em, but it's okay. Yeah, he's more of a hook 'em. I'm more of a pokes guy, but whatever. I support Big 12 football. Earl Thomas, to me, I mean, is he on the trading block? Because at this point in his career, he's definitely at a point where he's hitting that cap pretty hard. Can you give me a little more details on that?
Well, Earl Thomas is getting shopped around, but nothing crazy yet.
Okay.
But it all comes down to the offer and whatnot. If they want to get rid of him, there's obviously gonna be a market for him. According to multiple sources that I'm reading literally right now, they're listening. So,
right.
Could it be the same thing as the Patriots were listening to Jimmy Garoppolo trades last offseason, where AJ McCarron listening offers were out there as well last time this offseason?
Mm.
I'd like to see him stay because I think they don't really have I like the Seahawks. Like, regardless, I might not agree with everything they say, but I do like the fact that I like arrogantness. I'm better than you. You suck. Because if you don't believe it, who will, right?
Right.
And the whole persona of the fact that these guys were able to do that is probably one of the coolest things ever. And it's kind of just disheartening to see it's the end of a generation of my life. Same thing when I stopped seeing Peyton Manning play. We can think of great defensive core, the Purple People Eaters with the Vikings, the Bears in '85 when they started losing their pieces. The New York Sack Exchange with Gastineau and Klecko and Salam and all these guys. It's exactly that. So it's just the end of an era. It's more sad. Especially the fact that it's amazing how, and I said this years ago when the NFC West was on the upspring, the NFC East was the conference to beat, and then it became the NFC West, and now it's the NFC West is just trash. Personally, I feel like it could come back.
Let's back up a little on that. I mean, I know the outlook's not great, but I mean, we're still talking about the division with the Cardinals. We're still talking about the division with the Raiders. We're still talking about pretty. Wait, I'm so lost.
NFC West is the Raiders. The Cardinals, the Jimmy Garoppolo led 49ers, and the Seahawks and the Rams.
Okay, forgive me. It's past midnight. I'm on the East Coast. We're like Pat said, we're working overtime. That was a rookie mistake. Won't happen again. But I do want to touch on something you said that I thought was actually a really smart point, like um, a landing spot for Sherman. Like I think that the Raiders would be a really good fit for him. Obviously, he's a Stanford Bay Area guy. But more so than that, like you were saying, like you're gonna miss the Legion of Boom, and you're gonna miss that collective attitude that they had. And I think that Gruden is really pumped about the prospect of that he has. I mean, he said in Indianapolis that I want to coach Crabtree, I want to coach Lynch, I want to coach these guys. Like we know he wants to coach, but he wants to coach the Raiders. So I think Richard Sherman would actually be interested in that. I feel like wherever Richard Sherman falls is going to have to be somewhere where he's really interested in being, not necessarily about the dollars. Sherman's got a mixed reputation depending on who you ask. And that was actually something we talked about at St. John's in terms of like a media reception type of thing. But I mean, he's a curious case. The Raiders are always a curious case. The Legion of Boom is no longer. I mean, the Letterman Jack will go ahead and say that the Legion of Boom is long gone. I mean, they've been saying that on ESPN for a while, but it's really dead, and it is sad. So we are really kind of, speculative and not speculative, but we're curious and we're worried about the state of the Seahawks, obviously on the defensive side of the football, but all around. This is a team that's been pretty good these last few years, and especially in the last 8 games of the season and the last 4 games of the season when Russell Wilson can turn it on like very few players I've seen as a fan in my plus decade of being a fan. So just some other notes about the Seahawks. I'm a Jets guy, so obviously I want to comment on Sheldon Richardson, and how he remains unsigned. People kind of knew that his cap number was ghastly, hence the trade. But he remains unsigned, and Michael Bennett's obviously out of there. So who and Pat, I think you were telling me before the show, their heir apparent, their draft replacement for a big tackle up the middle on the nose side, he's not doing too well.
Yeah, so he got into an ATV accident before camp, ended up missing all of camp, and then in December, January timeframe, he was arrested.
Oh
So
my.
yeah, so Real Awesome was the 35th overall pick, so second round pick, but at the early end of it. So making decent money, and he said, "Oh, this awesome opportunity I have, let me be a punk." Um, it's just disappointing, man. That's really all it comes down to. This team depends so much on Russell Wilson. Jimmy Graham there's talk of him going back to uh New Orleans to meet up with Drew Brees, which would be smart for him. There's no running backs. Chris Carson, CJ Prozise, yeah, I'm good. The Eddie Lacy experiment didn't work out.
Love the
Inactive.
whole.
Yeah. Their offensive line was pretty terrible. Um, they're losing their tight end. I think Doug Baldwin's a very underrated receiver, but I don't think he is by any means a true number one. I think he's just good enough to get open. I think it's kind of that Edelman Brady connection where they're so connected that they're able to make plays, and that happens time in and time again. Speaking from a 2016 or 2015 or 2016 when Baldwin scored like 9 touchdowns.
I mean, he still does it at the end of the year. Like,
Yeah, it just
yeah, I
seems
mean,
they fit, but not a good offensive line situation. Dwayne Brown, pretty awesome, but getting up there in age, he'll be coming
he's,
back.
he's way plus 30, I think, at this point, or
He's
not
like
way, but
he's 32, 33 years old.
right. I would say he's closer to 35 than 30, if that makes any sense. But you bring up a good point because that's something that Mayock brought up in Indy, um, especially as the offensive linemen were going through their drills. Seattle needs offensive linemen. I mean, every team could always use a better offensive line, and so you could always want to pick up a better offensive lineman through the draft. So that's not exactly groundbreaking stuff right there. But to hear Mayock say that Seattle has a need at offensive line. Period. Stop. Um, it speaks volumes to me. I respect Mayock's opinion clearly. So I mean, what do they do there? I mean, I feel like for the offensive line, I don't know where the solutions come from. I feel like so few of them ever make it to free agency because they're either locked up or there's like one or two guys that are trying to command all the dollars and just wind up going to whoever has the most cap room. And then, like we talk about all the time, it's just a crazy, crazy dartboard throw for the draft. I mean, we like, I had a misstep the other day, and I said, Ohio State. I said, well, I didn't like their Vernon Gholston pick for the Jets, and I think they have offensive line and defensive line. So obviously, the Nick Mangold pick was a home run, right? Decade long, centerpiece of your line.
Him and DeBrickashaw in that same round.
Right, in that same round. I mean, that was nuts. I mean, I was so happy to be watching that. That was the '06 draft, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was really, I mean, I was jumping for joy, and nobody else in the room could understand why. Everybody said to me like, "Hey, you can pick up an offensive lineman any day of the week," and clearly I was right and they were wrong. So ha ha ha. But regardless of my freshman year of high school, I would like to say that it's just incredibly difficult to find a quality offensive lineman in the first round. So if it's hard to find them in the first round, it's hard to find them for the next 6 rounds. You know what I'm saying, Pat?
Their draft also kind of sucks. They have a first round pick, 18 overall, and then the 4th round they have the 120. They have 3 fifth rounds, and well, now they would have 4 fifth rounds and 2 7th rounds. So
they're spread all over the place. So they're not. So they're probably a team that's going to move around because
they got it. If they want to compete this year, they have to.
Right. Especially with 2 7th rounds doesn't really get you much of anything, but except maybe a 6th round pick or something. Like the thing of it is like being a Madden GM all these years doesn't really give me any insight into how the draft day scenarios work out. And speaking of draft day, I just want to say, like, we were speaking just a few minutes ago about like a story and how the story was that teams are, like they're shopping Earl Thomas, right? So that's being leaked, right? So that's like, that's not really confirmed, obviously, by anybody, and that's very draft day film-esque. And just something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough through the major media outlets is that, if a story like that's going around, like the Garoppolo thing or anything like that, obviously everybody and their mother, whether you're a football fan or not, knows that, certain players want, certain teams want to trade certain players, but that means that people behind the scenes are leaking that information. People in the organizations are talking to their friends in the media and saying, hey, this is off the record, but so-and-so is doing such and such, and we're looking to move him or whatever. So that was a total sidebar, but I love the film Draft Day for all that it is and for all that it is not. So where are we, Pat? And how much time do we have left?
We got all the time in the world because we're free.
Bonus episode.
We got about 20 minutes left for the bonus episode, to be honest. But what I am wanting to touch on is I think they should pick up a lineman, the first in their number 18, and then running backs, and just hope, man. They're just gotta throw some darts at the board, man. Make a splash in free agency.
They got running backs in Seattle, dude. My boy Chris Carson is going to be the strongest comeback you ever seen. Guarantee it.
Okay, there's Tuck's plug.
Go Pokes.
Go Pokes. But I just man, John Snyder, the GM's got a lot of work to do, and it's pretty terrible to be him. Straight up, I do not want his job. Because, like I said, I don't think any fans can name who Charlie Whitehurst or any of those other quarterbacks are. Barely could name Matt Hasselbeck, probably half of them. In that same notion, man, like what you build your team. A lot of teams will build defense inside out. I think that's what they got to do. Um, focus on bringing back Sheldon Richardson, Frank Clark, the defensive end out of USC. I think he's a third-year guy. Isn't terrible. They could bring back Byron Maxwell and Jeremy Lane to be the starting cornerbacks, but
Not
ultimately they're
bad.
gonna they can also Casterly was saying that they're gonna pick up a defensive end. I don't know, man.
Okay.
I
Well, if Casterly says it, I put a lot of stock in that. Everybody knows that, but
yeah.
um,
And that was and he said that before the draft, like before the trades and whatnot. So
okay, and you did make one good point. I wanted again, Jets fan, right? So Sheldon Richardson, I think they should bring him back, and I think Sheldon Richardson is the kind of guy that the reason he didn't stay here with the Jets is because everybody knew it was common knowledge that his desire for a long-term, extremely lucrative contract was like second to none. He thought he should be paid as the best defensive lineman, defensive tackle, defensive end, and I think that's why they kind of like they tried that whole experiment with him at outside linebacker because they're like wanted to put him in his place a little bit, saying, "Hey, son, you're still on the team. You're gonna have to do what we ask you to do." Um, and so I feel like with Sheldon Richardson, he's going to go around through free agency and have some visits, and his agent and him are going to make some demands, and the guys across the table are just going to be like, nah, we're good, like thanks for coming in. And so eventually he's going to have to come back to the teams he played for, the teams he has good relationships with, as opposed to teams he has no relationship with. So the deal is probably soured in New York, so he's probably going to have to go back to Seattle and say, hey, look, I'm willing to come back. I'm willing to do such and such and such. And, I'm only going to play for this minimum amount. So maybe that's for him. I don't know what the going rate is for top tier. So let's call it $7.5 million a year for somebody like Sheldon Richardson, who has all the talent in the world, but not all the motor in the world. So what else can we say about the state of Seahawks?
good luck for a 7-9 year. That's about it.
Well, that's what he wants. That's what Richardson wants, but nobody gets those kind of contracts. I mean,
no, I said the Seahawks will be a 7-9.
oh, my mistake.
Yeah.
That'd be a good. I would say that'd be a good year for them, considering the talent level that they have as we sit here in early March.
Yeah, I hope they prove us. I pretty much support anything Russell Wilson does. So
right, like playing for the Yankees.
Yeah, no, the fact that he does that is awesome because, especially the Yankees being a young team, he's just like, I'm really good at winning national championships.
Did you see him? I didn't actually get to see a clip of that. Did you see his at bat? I heard he was supposed to get an at bat.
Yeah, he walked and struck out, and I think he's done. I think he got reassigned.
It's okay. It's okay because you know what? My favorite college football player of all time, he's still playing baseball. So
Brandon Whedon.
No, well, I mean, I do love Brandon Whedon, but I think he still has a job in the NFL.
Yeah, he's the third string on the Titans. Good for
him. That's always okay. Brandon Whedon should always have a job in a quarterback room. He's a good teacher, but
he should be getting ready to retire I'm talking about soon.
He's like, we should be getting paid to retire.
He should be getting ready to retire. He's like 36 now.
I think he's closer to 40, to be honest, but he doesn't have a lot of miles on that body because he was a minor league pitcher. Let's not forget, for the Yankees organization. It's a small world, especially in sports. Yeah. But Tim Tebow, he was one of our pitchers on the Mets here. I don't know. It was like a simulated game for DeGrom, I guess, and he only faced like 3 guys, and it was like 2 real people and then Tim Tebow, and I was like, woo! But that's a complete side note. If you think Tim Tebow is anything less than the best college quarterback of all time, I want you to let me know, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Yeah. Also, fun fact: are you really excited for the Seahawks to have Nick Bennet and former UT quarterback Tyrone Swoops to be your tight end? If you're a Seahawks fan, good luck with that one, guys. Have fun with that one. Good luck, guys. 7-9 going up against Garoppolo. Y'all will lose those 2 games. Depending on, I think the Rams will wipe the floor with y'all. So you guys are 0-4. Probably split with maybe a Case Keenum led Cardinals team. Maybe, I don't know.
That'd be a sweet spot for him.
Yeah, so you'll split with the Case Keenum led Cardinals 1-1. So have fun with the 1-5 record in your division, guys. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's not, yeah, like you were saying, it's not necessarily the most competitive division because the term competitive division is always used in terms of, playoff caliber teams. But there's a ton of parity in that division. None of them are running away with it.
I don't
You
know,
know,
man.
like,
Jimmy Garoppolo has never lost a start in the NFL, and is right now
good,
the
good,
currently the most highest paid player in the NFL.
right. And actually, I'm curious to see when that's going to be matched because, I mean, with the Matt Stafford deal coming out and then the Garoppolo deal coming out, I don't really see that situation happening again for another couple of years. So,
Well, if the Jets get Kirk Cousins, which is the
right,
hot take right now,
which I'm okay with. I love Kirk Cousins because I
and
like
you
that. I
love
like,
the Jets,
so I like that,
and
and I
you
love
love
the Jets. So,
so if the Jets get Kirk Cousins, and if you only saw my hand motions, guys, I'm doing when President Trump does his thing, the OK symbols or whatever. I don't know.
yeah, I
That's
don't
what
even
I'm
know.
doing. You know what I'm doing. Trust
Are
me,
you
you
doing the
don't.
tricky? Are you doing the tricky dick, the two pieces and the?
I don't know. I'll show it to you later. But if the Jets get Kirk Cousins, it will be the hugest deal of all deals ever in guaranteed money. The Jets are they're willing to guarantee him like 100 million.
Well, they have 100 million in the cap room for next year. Like
Yeah,
so, like they're in the bottom. Like, well, not the bottom three. They're in the top three in terms of how. So, you know, we've talked to our friends about this. Obviously, I grew up a Jets fan. Pat's such a big football fan that he always watched Jets games with me. And a lot of our friends are okay with it. A lot of New Yorkers, as Jets fans, as beleaguered Jets fans, is probably the best way to put it. I mean, I love my Jets. I'm never gonna go anywhere from that. Like, that's my diehard growing up fandom. Um, I think Kirk Cousins, that's a great landing spot for him financially. The receiving core is up and coming. Unfortunately, our best receiver is having all kinds of legal issues that I won't even discuss.
yeah. What
But
he told that police officer is what he told that police officer was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And
I
I
mean,
worked in
yeah,
emergency
I didn't even
services.
read the story because
Oh,
it's
what
sad.
he
It's too
said,
sad for me.
I will tell you off air because who
Okay.
says that to another human being?
Okay. Well, you know what? We don't know the mitigating circumstances. Maybe he was under the influence of something or another. But regardless, hopefully the leading receiver from the Jets last year will get his stuff together off the field and make another comeback as he did at Temple and at other places and other junctures throughout his life. So, but the Jets, I think like the Jets have always needed that answer. So we've been talking about the Jets for a while, but that's going to happen when Tuck's leading the show. So, or at least co-hosting the show. Sorry. Um, so Kirk Cousins really should land with the Jets. I know we kind of alluded to the Browns in previous episodes, but that's not really. I would say it's not really that realistic. It's more of like a financial feasibility, maybe a hometown kind of thing. I feel like the Jets, there's a reason why every media outlet is saying the same exact thing. Um, but let's see. Do we have anything else that we want to say about the Seahawks before we just completely forget about the Seahawks entirely until Russell Wilson decides to remind us?
at least you guys have Bobby Wagner. Your linebacking core is still pretty good. Him and KJ Wright. So y'all have that going for you. Bobby Wagner does things, pretty impressive things.
I mean, you never know. Like, and I mean, they got good special teamers, right? So their kick returner, and the receiver slash receiver.
TJ Lockett, yeah.
Yeah, Lockett. There you go.
He's a
Yeah.
Kansas State guy, third round pick out of in 2016.
Anybody that
Uh,
plays for Coach Snyder is all right in my book, but
yeah,
I mean, he's good. I mean, he's not doing well as a receiver, but he's one of those guys that we talk about that, you know, like you said, third round pick. So if they can find some guys like that with the limited draft capital that they have here in 2018, they might be able to turn things around. Like we were talking about before the show. This isn't, in my opinion, in Tuck's opinion, this is not a rebuilding year, although there seems decimated. It's a reloading year. When you have Russell Wilson back there and you have some of the other characters that they have, and when I say characters, I mean just players, just solid players, nothing other than that. But so you have Russell Wilson, you have some talent throughout your roster scattered, and so it's a reloading year, like Pete Carroll used to do at USC. All right, it's a reloading year, not rebuilding year. So what are your takes on that?
I like the fact that you mentioned, I think a college coach is better to equip this because he went from Carson Palmer to Matt Leinart to, obviously they won a championship with Palmer and Leinart.
Was he there Barkley's first year?
Yes, he was actually in 2009, but I don't think Barkley was starting. He had Sanchez.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah. So he Sanchez was his last quarterback. So he went from there. John David Booty kept him in the Rose Bowl hunt. So he's good at getting rid of, I don't want to say getting rid of players, but reloading with players. So he's had
right. Well, that was his
with
philosophy. I'm not even making that up. That was his philosophy at USC.
Yeah. So overall, I think Pete Carroll will be fine. I don't think anyone can default Pete Carroll's coaching ability to their lack of success. I don't, if they do go 7-9, 6-10 this year, it's all based on just skill. I think. I think Pete Carroll has solidified his job there for at least 5 more years, unless they go 1-31, which they won't because you have Relson.
Of course. He's going to win the last 4 games of the season, like almost guaranteed.
Yeah, they'll continue to be in the hunt. Like, I don't disagree that, it's going to come down to the end of the year. I just still think they're going to be 7-9. Like,
right.
And maybe that changes when the schedule comes out. My opinion may differ, but right now I'm not impressed. It's a shame. They are a good franchise. I think.
Well, we do have to keep in mind, and sorry to cut you off, but we do have to keep in mind, like I've mentioned the last few episodes, the league year has not yet to reset itself. All right, free agency has yet to begin, the draft has yet to happen, the schedule is even yet to be released, all these different things. So it's that time of year where you turn on NFL Network and. Now we're literally between the combine and the draft, so it's kind of really dog days. You really got to be like us and really be hardcore fans to really digest all these storylines because, like the Earl Thomas thing, like that's more of a smokescreen than a real story, and all the other things like the Michael Bennet trade obviously was a hot solid story. But then you got the Richard Sherman thing that's from Bleacher Report. I'm sure it'll be confirmed, but it's one of those things where we kind of need to wait for our stories to get confirmed here at this point in the season or lack of season, the off season.
Well, Sherman tweeted out the thank you. He said thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so that's confirmed.
That's official. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, before anything gets too late, it is really getting late here on my end on the East Coast, but I just want to mention a couple things, or actually on my end, I want to mention that if any of our listeners in the New York area especially, if you suffer from chronic pain in any form or fashion, whether that's in your back, upper, lower back, you have tightness issues, you have any recurring kind of thing that you might think is an injury or something you think, man, I just got to live with this, go to livepositive365.com. Look up what Joe Tomzik's doing over there with the massage therapy. He's certified. He's licensed. And all those good things. He's kind of a holistic medicine kind of guy. So go to livepositive365.com. Get in contact with Joe Tomzik. Tell him Tuck from the Letterman Jacket podcast. Use promo code TUCK. and he will give you 10% off your first session. And I guarantee you, after that first session, you're going to feel a little bit better, and you're going to feel so much better that day that you're going to want to go back, because that's exactly what happened to me. I had an injury that I just couldn't. I thought I was going to live with it forever. I thought it was a spinal injury. I went to PT for it. The MRIs came back negative, so I knew it wasn't exactly a spinal injury at some point, but nothing was working for me. And so finally, my friend, my close personal friend, just happens to become a licensed massage therapist, and within 2 sessions, it's like a whole new world, everything's great. So livepositive365.com, promo code Tuck. What do you got, Pat?
Well, I got Kilo Charlie Clothing, a veteran-owned and operated on this side of the Mississippi, and by this side, I mean the right side, Tucker. And as I do my Stephen A. Smith impression, I will tell you to visit the Kilo Charlie Clothing website, which is www.kilocharlin.com. And Max Kellerman, I mean Tucker Hoadley, let's do it.
I believe the URL for Kilo Charlie Clothing is kilocharlieclothing.com. Not kilocharlie.com. I think that's probably not the same thing.
Stephen A. Smith says what he wants, Tuck.
That is true. And I'm glad we got the impression in a manner in which we're not going to get too heated, because we know the products, right? So check out Kilo Charlie Clothing. I wear their operator shirt. They're coming out with a new design. Hit up the pre-order for the Tourniquet Up. If you don't know what a tourniquet is, Google it. It saves lives every single day. So that's one thing. Both of those companies, they help us out a little bit, just by helping us to continue to grow and get to the next stage we like to get to. And a lot of it's coming out of our sweat equity and out of our back pocket, but they help us out, and we're trying to help them out as well. So I think with all that being said, the state of the Seahawks as of early March is not great, but there's reasons to be optimistic. We're a long way from September, boys. So let's keep that in mind. And Pat, if you wouldn't mind taking us out.
All right, guys. Thank you again for listening to the Letterman Jacket podcast. For Tucker Hoadley and Pat Ruffino, at least y'all still have Russell Wilson. Good night, everyone.